Good, good morning, guys. Welcome to FYI for your information. How are you this morning? TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. You know how it is. It is Friday, 29th of July, 2022, and we're here with you to bring you credible information. I'm saying we, but you're only seeing me. Don't worry. I'm being correct. I'm still correct. You're not seeing what you need to see at the moment. Guys, how are you this morning? How's the weather at your end? Lots of rain. I can tell you lots of rain in many parts of the country right now. So I know a lot of folks going out there making sure that they are keeping dry. This morning, as I was on my way over here, I had a little bit of chit chat with the woman that was actually going about reading the meters for GWI. It's very interesting the amount the individuals that work to keep this country going. When you have the conversation with her, she was saying to me that she's up since 4 o'clock because she's on the road since 5:30 actually since 5:30 she's always there making sure that she gets every bit of her work done, especially when she's picking up the slack for somebody else is not feeling good or so forth. So, guys, to all of you hardworking women and men out there that's out there making sure that you do what you have to do to keep the bills paid, you have our respect. I commend each and every one of you for the effort that you have been making. But let me know what's going on at your end. I see Tommy Gibbs early this morning. Good morning to you, Tommy. And I see Isabella Butters also there. Chevon, how are you, Chevon? Guys, you have been such an amazing group of people this week. You've come through. I know that you will do your part. Start the morning off early by sharing the live stream to make sure that you receive credible information. Margaret Nelson, good morning to you. Happy Friday, Margaret. Happy Friday to you as well. Travosa Williams. Is it Travosa Williams? I always say this wrong. My apologies. Good morning to you. Good morning. Stanislaus Washington. Hey, joining us from Sutherland, England. What is going on over there? What's the weather like? How are things treating you? Guys, have you been able to complete whatever is it that you set out to complete for the week, 2 weeks in a year? How is it that you're getting by? You know, we are here at the end of the month. Ms. Duncan's reminding me this is the end of the month. So whatever it was that you had planned for this month, it should be wrapped up by now. Sometimes we have a little difficulty. Sometimes we slack up on a lot of little things that we need to get done because of constraints, things beyond our control, unforeseen circumstances as we reported. If you have faced any of those, just wipe the slate clean. Make sure you go fresh again from the new month. We're going to be in August. We're going to be in August in a matter of 2-3 days. So make sure that you do your part and make sure that you get your piece covered. Mr. John Jones, I see you there in the comment section joining us from New Jersey. Good morning to all the folks joining from New Jersey this morning. How are you guys doing? Marlon Thomas, hey Marlon, good morning. How are you? Marna Monroe, hey Marna, I'm seeing you there. Hey Kieran Thomas, I see TGI, yes, of course, Kieran. Melinda Ines says, blessed morning to everyone. Melinda is sharing some blessings to you, and we say the same to you, Melinda. Make sure that you are good and you are okay today. I see Hyacinth Skeet this morning says, good, honorable member of parliament, blessed day, family. Guys, sometimes I forget all that title that goes with the portfolio. Vashti Magnat, hey Vashti, what is going on at your end? Vashti, how are things? I see like my eyes feels a little wet this morning. I don't know what is going on. Good morning to Facebook user. Says good morning, beautiful. Facebook user, whoever you are, you're coming through this morning to make me feel special. I appreciate you. Good morning to you. Good morning to you, Don Cook. Don, what's going on the west side? Let me know what's the weather like. How are things there? I've been getting a lot of complaints coming out of various uh various sections of region number 3. So I want to know what's going on with your end, any difficulties and so forth. I know those local authorities are having a lot of difficulties with keeping a lot of persons in tune with what they're supposed to be doing and what they're not supposed to be doing. I've been receiving some reports about, car wash being set up in certain areas that it shouldn't be, actually giving help to some of the neighbors and so forth. So we've been making some intervention for those folks. Let me know what is going on with your end. We have to make sure that whatever it is that we're doing, guys, listen, I serve at the level of the town council. That's my first bit. That's my introduction into politics. I served as a council on the Bartica Mayor and Town Council. I happened to just have been placed as the only female on the Works Committee on the Town Council. So that's 3 year period there that I was there. I learned so much. I'm not gonna be. I cannot tell you the amount of experience and knowledge altogether that you get from serving at those bodies. And one of the things that I learned is that a lot of times, we see people doing things, your neighbor is doing some renovation, some construction work and all of that. But a lot of times persons are, well, I don't want to say the majority of times because I don't have any supporting statistics, but I have seen numerous cases in which persons go out there and they just, they want to do some renovations, they want to fix their fence and all of those things. That they just go out there without really seeking permission, without really going through the necessary channels they need to actually get things done in a correct way. And it's a big issue. A lot of people out there building stuff, not following building codes. A lot of people don't even know that building codes exist. So we have to be very, very careful. But one of the most important issues, and this one I just mentioned there, is a lot of times people believe that they can just set up a business at any part because they want, the times are hard. Let me just go and say that times are hard. So persons are looking to see how best they can get an additional stream of income coming in. So a lot of times they're setting up shop and doing some businesses that really doesn't have any business being done in residential areas. There's a lot we have to get going. A lot of education needs to be given to the population and so forth, because we have to do things in a manner in which it doesn't affect persons that are immediately in our immediate surrounding rather. So guys, let me know what's going on at your end. Any of those things you see and going up. Oh, and for all the folks that cast your parapet, it is not your property to put up big rocks and stuff like that in front of it. I have seen this at too many places. It's that is just wrong. It's just wrong. I don't have any other way of putting it over. You can't just put big rocks and so it's an incumbents altogether. You can't do it. It's just that has its own bit of illegality. And folks, as we on this piece of discussion, as I found it necessary to enlighten with you with this bit of chit chat this morning, I have to say that I am pleading with you to make sure that you do the right thing and stop littering on the road. I am absolutely offended every single time I see someone stick their hands through a vehicle window and throw something out. It's absolutely ridiculous. And when you get to the airport, before you could even touch down at JFK, your attitude changes. I know you can do better at home. Make sure that you do your part. You see, every time it rains, you remember that there are people that are being affected tremendously, and you contribute to it if you're throwing stuff on the roadways and so forth and clogging up the drains. And so we have to do better as a people. We need to rewire ourselves and our manner of thinking. Edward Gonzalez, good morning to you, Edward. I see you joining us there. Edward joins us from the Bronx. For those of you who don't know, Edward always joins us from the Bronx. If I'm ever in the Bronx, I have to go visit Edward. I absolutely have to. That is my one particular FYI family member that I have to go check out whenever I'm in those areas. Hey, I see you, Vigilance. Olivia Vigilance says, good morning to the FYI family. Guys, remember to keep growing this family. It's absolutely necessary that we have a large viewership. It's not all about us sitting here, but you know how we do it. It's always an interactive session. Whatever that your thoughts are, we do our best to respond to as many as possible. So make sure that you share, because the more views we have, the better it is for us to have a very strong understanding as to the real issues going on in the communities. Tessa Isaac Graves Andy, good morning to you, Tessa. What is going on at your end? Tessa, I love when you come through early in the morning, always bright up in spirit. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here with us. And Sean Carter says, good afternoon, London in the house, FYI family. Well, you know London, how they come through it, and we always say the time difference and all of those things. We know that we appreciate the fact that you take your time out to be here with us and help to share in this credible information channel that we have. Chevron McDonald's, I see Isabella, I'm also taking my vitamins too and bitter. Chevron, if you're not feeling well, make sure that you do your part, get up early in the morning, get the stretches in and so forth. We don't want any of you sick. That is not something that we are looking to have. I see Don Cook says that's true, Joretta. They litter at home, but when they go abroad, they don't. We talk about this all the time. We say that Guyanese, we're the greatest. We make sure that we. I don't understand how it is done, but it's like clockwork. You go to the airport, you see that plane, and right away, littering, no more. you know, Chaotic driving, no more. How do we do it? And it just goes to show that there are people out there that have so much disregard for the actual country and how we operate at home, and that's not okay. It is not okay for you to believe that you have to adhere to good practices when you are in another country, someone else's country, but when you're at home, you're not doing that. It doesn't spell right at all. So we encourage you not to do that. Brat with Stacy. Good morning to you, Brat with Stacy. How are you this morning? I see Tracy Garway coming through. Blessed. Good morning, watching from Florida. Good morning to you, Tracy, and all the folks that may be joining us from Florida this morning. I'm not sure if you're the only one as yet, but I hope that you are not. I see Margaret Nelson said, Joretta, they are afraid of the $500 littering charge. I always say, this is so true. I always say that when we want to make sure that persons conform to certain laws, however small that law may be, once you put a penalty, once you put a financial penalty, once your pocket hurts, suddenly people realize that they need to get this done. Suddenly people realize that they have the ability to do things in the right way. So I understand that totally. I know it's crazy that persons, and when it comes to, I'm a little, this morning, like I said, I started a conversation by saying I was talking to one of the employees of GWI that is out there reading the meter, and it just hit home the fact that people just have to get out there, they have to push, and they are doing it. And guys, I want to say that when it comes to people in the country right now that just dispose of their garbage in the most ridiculous of manner, stop it. At some point in time, we need to be following best practices from more developed countries. And I am basically bringing in this part of my chit chat this morning from the comment that says that $500 charged for littering, overseas there, whichever country that was in, I'm not sure. However, what I can say is that in our country, as it is right now, persons need to desist from just throwing garbage loosely in the bins, Oh my goodness, use a garbage bag it all. Have some bit of respect for yourself and the way in which you operate. It tells a lot about you, the way in which you do these things, and I think it's absolutely necessary that we do the right thing. Rima, I see your comment there. Rima, I'm not too sure I can get all of that. Let me see if I can get through this. Okay, so I'm not getting that comment. It's going up too quickly. Sean Carter. Hey, Sean, how are you this morning? What's going on at your end? I'm seeing what's going on there. Glenford Gordon, good morning to you, Glenford. Glenford, what is going on? I haven't seen your comments lately, but I have to make sure that I go back to Glenford. I know you always say positive things and you always give directions. I see you there. I see so I see Saif Ali is saying, asking rather, is COVID jag you have or is Sue flu he have? I'm neither in the position to confirm or deny. I think that's my best way of putting that over. But I did see reports coming out that apparently Jagdio tested negative for COVID-19. However that is going on. Don't get you test positive one day and 2 days after you test negative. But that's a different story. I'm not going to get into that. Chevon McDonald, good morning to you. Joretta, I'm in New Jersey. I went to Brooklyn for a weekend. Chevon is getting out and about. I have to tell Sherrod about this. Chevon is out and about and she is doing her part. Brenda Moore, good morning to you, Brenda. How are you doing this morning? Alec Boom. Alec, good that you're coming through this morning early. I see Christine Figuera is watching there from Linden. Christine is saying good morning to everyone from Linden there. Linden is in the house. What is going on to the folks in Bartica? Come on. Miss Garway, come on. Miss Blair, where are you guys this morning? I'm not seeing the Bartica folks online as yet. Riri Mingo Garway. Good morning to you, Riri Mingo Garway. Quite an interesting Facebook name there. Robert Pops Archer. Good morning to you, Robert. Have you been causing any bit of stir on social media lately? Robert is usually in the comment sections of so many things, putting things to right. He just does not see misinformation and leave it alone. So kudos to you, Robert, and so many other persons like yourself who make sure that you set the record straight, give the bit of information that is so desperately needed to be disseminated, to be shared, to be spread out throughout the social media platforms. So we are reaching a whole lot of people, and we can't take it for granted. We are reaching a whole lot of people, and Robert says Niagara Falls in the house. So guys, Robert always joins us from Niagara Falls. I'm not sure if Robert lives there, if Robert works there, whatever. But that is home base for Robert when it comes to that is home base when it comes to the FYI program in the morning. We're always so happy to have you with us. Hey, Elizabeth Howard, how are you doing? Good morning to you. Checking in from Queens. Lovely to have you folks in the house this morning. Maureen Coppin Williams. Folks that don't know, Maureen Coppin Williams watching from Long Island. Long Island in the house this morning. And of course, we see Leon Gorbadan, up and about very early this morning. Okay, so I see Hilbert of Beaver Nights there says, good morning, MP Hilbert, coming through from Bartica for folks that don't know. And I'm going to go and sidetrack a little bit and make this program a little 2 minutes about Hilbert. Hilbert actually taught me in secondary school. He was one of those mentors that you don't ever forget. You went into secondary school, fresh out of primary, you don't really know what is going on. And so he was one of those teachers that steered the course, and so somebody that all students could look to as a shining example of what they're supposed to do. And of course, of course, I did my utmost best to make sure that my grades were in tune and that I gave academic year, whichever year he taught me. But an excellent teacher, and he's not teaching anymore. He is out private sector oriented right now, but absolutely amazing. And I am highly, highly appreciative, extremely grateful for all the work that was put in on my part from Hilbert Knight. So there you have that. Derek Smith in the house this morning. Good morning to you, Derek. I see Ann Gordon says, good morning, guys. Hey, Anna, what is going on at your end? Okay, so Maureen Coppins will say, remember, guys, it's the National Day of, I missed that. I'm so sorry. I cannot believe I missed that. But Maureen, if you can just throw that back in the comments so I can pick it up once more. I see Fitzherbert Jarek rather. Hey, Fitzherbert Jarek, how are you this morning? Let me know what is going on at your end. I'm trying to get back. Oh my goodness, Maureen, you made me come all the way back up for this for this comment. I was thinking that you were going on a different direction. She says, good morning, guys. It's the National Day of Ignoring Trenches. Okay. Let us release the rest of the comments. I note that Marine comments, Williams, Marine, you different. Very, very different. I see Gavin Liverpool says Hilbert from Knight's Pharmacy, a humble individual. Well, actually, Hulbert is his brother. Hulbert is from the pharmacy, but both very, very humble individuals. I see Linda Gordon there with us this morning. Good morning, Linda. How are you doing? What is going on at your end? Guys, I want to get into a little bit into the morning papers. You know, I've been trying to make sure that I didn't miss anybody. If I did miss you, I'm sorry, but I just have to go into the morning paper as the clocks keep ticking. So one of the first things I want to look at in the morning papers this morning is the list of fertilizer relief being drawn up. You would remember that there was an announcement when it comes to the administration, the representatives of the administration saying that they're going to be giving fertilizer relief to farmers and so forth. And we always have an issue, and then the issue always is lack of transparency. The issue always is corruption entails in all of these distributions. Ever since the FUPI administration took office, there has never been one single distribution that wasn't laced with corruption. And that's a real issue because the actual persons, the most vulnerable people in society are the ones that seems to be pushed at the back when it comes to these particular policy measures that they're pushing forward with. Now, when it comes to the fertilizer, and I want to read a quote directly from the report this morning, and it says the Minister of Agriculture, Zulfikar Mustafa, and officials from the Guyana Rice Development Board on Monday met with the members of the, and listen carefully, met with the members of the Rice Farmers Fertilizer Assistance Registration and Verification Committee. So they met with the, I'm going to say it one more time for you, the Rice Farmers Fertilizer Assistance Registration and Verification Committee to discuss the relief program announced last Monday by Air Finale there. A lot of times we see these things putting up, and my first, let me just say, forgive me, but I have to be the devil's advocate in these situations, because I know that there's a committee, like I just said, there's a committee put forward there, that's dealing with the registration. Persons need to be registered in order to access this particular relief, and then there's so there's a committee set up not only to deal with the registration but also to verify. Now, my issue is that I believe it is absolutely necessary to make very public who are the members of this committee. Who are the members of the committee? Is the committee set up in such a manner that there is balanced representation on the committee? And that's the first stage, because it makes no sense to just putting a group of people together that is not very balanced. I'm just saying balanced for need of a better word, but you know where I'm coming from with this. But again, I say that all of these relief measures, we are yet to see any one of them being done in such a manner that the most vulnerable actually benefits the most from it. And it always goes back to some friend and family. It always goes back to political persons. The political machinery will be at work, as opposed to the government machinery being operationalized to make sure that persons actually get the benefit from these relief as they are putting it forward. Absolutely chaotic. Every last one thus far has been chaotic. You know this. You cannot argue it. You know it. You know it. It started from the COVID-19 cash grant. You know the chaos there. You know the thousands of persons that are still left with a pink slip in their hand. You know all of the complaints that were put out on social media, through the print media and all of that. Some of you listening right now would have experienced yourself. How many of you listen right now that actually live in Guyana and did not receive 1 cent from that grant that was supposed to be for every household in the country? It's absolutely chaotic. We have to do better. We have to make sure the taxpayers' dollars are spent in a very accountable manner, a very transparent manner. And this whole, and I think the chaotic way, walking around with the money in a backpack or in a briefcase or something, it's absolute madness. But we are where we are. We're going to continue to advise against the manner in which these things are done. We're going to continue to advise that any bit of relief put forward should be done in a mechanism, through a distribution mechanism that is so sealed tight that it doesn't have the opportunity for corruption, and more importantly, a mechanism that guarantees that the most vulnerable in society are the ones that are benefiting from the aid altogether. I want to touch on another bit. This is more closer to home. I have to say that the sanctioned APNU AFC MP suspended without pay and benefits, and this is a huge one. And we by no means should you not understand the depth at which this is. This simply says that the administration, the PP administration, will stop at no level. They will do everything in their power. And I want to bring it back to something that we spoke about a bit earlier in the year when we spoke about the budget for 2022. And I told you, and remember, we had this discussion several times. I told you that what the administration do is they make sure that they shackle the hands of your representatives to make sure that they are not empowered to go out and do what they have to do. You would have seen it when it comes to the budgetary allocations that are given to the various RDCs when that were won by the APNU AFC. You would see that in the biggest budget ever at the regional level, that line item that's specific to the region and that the council could actually utilize without the intervention of central government, that allocation has been slashed in the biggest budget ever for region number 4. That allocation has been slashed. And I told you in no uncertain terms that they specifically did that because they want to financially cripple your representatives. And then they're going to go out there and say, what are they doing for you? You know, how are they working on your behalf? And I want to say it's no different when it comes to what is going on here right now. The fact that 8 suspended members of parliament, some suspended from 4 sit-ins, some suspended from 6 sit-ins. The 8 suspended members of parliament, the PPP, have effectively cut the resources that they should be utilizing to go out and to work in their constituencies and on behalf of the people that they represent. This is the level at which the PPP is willing to go to stifle democracy in a country. 2022, when we see so many countries pushing forward for inclusion, when there is a mandate but given in so many upstanding democracies to make sure the representation is done in a manner that everyone has a voice. This, if I'm to say what I actually feel about this, I don't think it's going to be appropriate for the morning program, first of all. But I have to say that this bit here has effectively financially crippled 8 representatives of the coalition when it comes to making sure that they have a bit of funding to go out there and to do work. And I have to say, in addition to that, that everyone would know that the actual volume of work, especially when it comes to traveling around and so forth, that members of parliament have to do, it is the stipend that is given is just a drop in the ocean as compared to all of that. So now they have even removed that. So nevertheless, the coalition members of parliament will continue to press forward to make sure that they do everything in their power to be out there, to be among the people, to represent all the time, because that's what we have been elected to do. And these struggles are markers. They are things that at an international level that should highlight the length at which the PPP is willing to go to make sure that they muzzle representation and that they make sure that whatever is it that they're doing, they can do in a way in which they don't want scrutiny. That's the overarching issue. They don't want scrutiny. So they're trying to muzzle folks so that people would not be willing to just get up and say, oh, well, you're doing this wrong and you're doing that wrong. But like Amanda Walton this year said right here, I think it was Tuesday, that those 8 suspended members of parliament, you wear it like a badge of honor because you were there representing the people of this country, and at no point in time should any of them feel any way wrong about what they did, because it is absolutely necessary that representation is had. And you would remember we were speaking about it so many times. The very reason why there was those actions in the National Assembly is simply because the PPP, with all their might and right as they go out, came to force down the Guyanese people's throat a bit of legislation there that is absolutely unacceptable. At the moment, as we speak right about now, as crazy as it is, the matters before the court, we have been fighting on every single ground possible to make sure the representation for Guyanese is properly made. So we continue to do that. We will continue to do that, but it's absolutely disturbing the length at which the PPP administration would go to muzzle representation of the people. Elected officials should never be muzzled at any point in time from making representation of the people that elected them. Guys, as we continue there, I see ExxonMobil awards contract to lay gas to shore pipeline without the EPA permit. We have been on this for a little bit. We have been on this for a while. You cannot do that. You cannot do this at all. We see all the talk about environmental protection and all of that, even during the discourse that was had between the officials that met with the delegation in the US. We heard so much talk about environmental protection and all of that. And there you have it. When the rubber hits the road, when the test is actually put out there, these are the headlines that we are reading. ExxonMobil award contract to lay gas to shore pipeline without EPA permit. This is completely unacceptable. We as a small country, um, very small population and all of that, we have to make sure that we do everything in a manner that that we are looking 10 steps ahead. If I'm to put it over like that, we have to look 10 steps ahead. We cannot just be doing things as and just looking in the present. Oh, how is this affecting things now in the present? What is going to happen, 5, 10, 15 years ahead? How are we going to be as a country? We need to ensure that when it comes to the environmental impact assessment and all of those things, that all of those things are conducted. And the EPA needs to be very much so respected. The permit given from the EPA is not just anything that's a fly by night. I mean, the structure has been gutted. We have been saying it. The actual expert, the technical expert, has been removed from that institution, and we know the direction in which the administration was going when they did that. But in no way, shape, or form, as a citizen of Guyana, is it okay for these things to be done without permit given by these institutions. Absolutely unacceptable. We are not in that. And I want to say, this bit is a little bit, I hope you guys have been listening in, but this piece, romantic bandit spared jail time. I had this conversation with you. You would remember that I had this conversation with you a little bit, or is it earlier in the week or last week, in which I was talking and I used the phrase catfish. All right, I used the phrase catfish because how I knew it. I think that it was there was an actual show that was named Catfish, in which persons go online and pretend to be somebody they're not, to actually con people. A lot of catfish does not really, a lot of the catfishing that is done online does not necessarily go to financially con people, but a lot of them do. But the whole process is just so evil. You just don't do that. You don't play with somebody's psyche. You don't play with people's emotion, and just kick back, just relax, and just laughing it out as though it's another day around the corner. That's not how you operate. But this particular one, allow me to go into the bit of notes that we have. But they're saying here the romantic bandit spared jail time as victim accepts repayment and drops charges. So that's one way of going, repay the person and drop the charges, but it's absolutely necessary that the information come to light. It's a 25-year-old woman who pretended to be an Englishman on Facebook. A 25-year-old woman who pretended to be an Englishman on Facebook to rob another of $85,000 was on Wednesday spared from being jailed after the victim accepted repayment and dropped the charges against her. It says the person behind the fake Englishman's Facebook profile was identified as Susan Richards and they give the address there, not necessary for me to call that, according to the investigation conducted by Suku. And she was part of a romance scheme that scammed the woman of $85,000. You do not, as a 25-year-old woman, sit behind a computer and pretend to be a Caucasian man and think it's okay. You do not do that to people. It's not okay. In no way, shape, or form is it okay for you to be disguising, pretending to be someone else. We understand that you are looking at an administration that is completely corrupt and is involved in everything wrong and shady. You as an individual, you need not follow those practices. You need to not do this. Guys, listen, it's absolutely important. I understand the dynamics of social media and the way in which persons are integrated and the way in which the world is so interconnected that people meet on social media. There are lots of positive stories about relationships being formed, persons going on to get married and all of those things. But I am warning you, I take this very seriously. I am warning you at no point in time do you ever send money to people that you met on social media that you have never met in person. You do not do that. Even when you go to money transfer agencies, for example, I'm going to throw this one out, like Western Union. When you go there, when you are standing there in the room, every single Western Union outposts, you would know that, well, location, I'm using outpost wrong there. Every single Western Union location countrywide, you go there, you would see a flyer on the wall warning you that you do not send money to somebody that you have never met. You do not do that. You never meet somebody on social media, no matter what story they give to you, and you just send money to them when you cannot ascertain that this person is real. You do not do that. And I'm going to give a warning to a lot of young women out there. You do not just fall in love with the photograph. Don't do it. You don't do that. Make sure that you are at a place that you have checked off who this individual is. Make sure that you are at a place that you know the dynamics of the person that you're speaking about. You know who their family are, who their friends are. You know how many times have you actually spoken to somebody through a video conversation? Do not fall victim. It's 2022. The scammers are going to come in all shapes and form. And I have to say this, one of the things that is
cost of living is high too.
It's a no-brainer. They share this thing, cost of living is high
So
too.
people are very coming up with all kinds of schemes and initiatives.
Yes, exactly. So one of the things, the no-brainer for me is once it looks too good to be true, it is too good to be true, right? That is just the fact of the day. Once it appears to be too good to be true, you're talking to somebody online, they promise you the moon and the star, and this appears just too good to be true. My gosh, it could never, I never thought of somebody like this. Chances are it is not real. Chances are somebody is just making a fool of you on the other side.
Chances are.
Real people come with real issues, and they nag and they tug and all sorts of things. So unless you are in that one in a million category to reach this person that doesn't bring all of that, guys, check it out. Shame on anybody that has done this. It is not acceptable. And I'm thinking this is not the first one that I'm actually seeing. So I have to say that we detest, we say it is absolutely ridiculous and shameful for anyone to go out there
It's really why you got no people running
in 2022 and actually do something like that.
Why you got no people running?
I have to cut off everybody's run-ins this morning on this particular matter. I am giving them some pointers.
Cutting up people run-ins.
These flawless photos. Oh, but something else,
Tell us.
Something else that you can do.
Morning, guys.
All right. Something else that you can do if you want to check out, you're talking to someone on social media and you want to actually check out whether or not you're talking to somebody that's real. And I would do
right person.
Like a lot of people don't know, but you can actually run a check on Google, a simple Google check, while you can literally take the photo that they have up as their profile picture and drop it into the Google and actually check and see. You may be surprised. You may see somebody pop up in some other country.
Another level of protection.
Yeah, you have.
When in doubt, Google.
Protect yourself. Right. And men out there, it's crazy. But this is a woman pretending to be a man.
Yeah.
Sharon?
They're different.
They're very different.
Romantic bandit. Wow.
Yes.
And this is the second instance we're seeing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I'm wondering how many more.
Yeah, there's a lot more because this is not the first time I've seen this in the media. I've seen a couple of months ago, if not a year or two ago, we saw again. People are always is this innate desire for meaning and for longing, for companionship, for love and so on, companionship that people go after. And so, in a sense, it's understandable. It's quite understandable, but you have to have a checklist.
Yes.
Right? You just start talking to somebody, suddenly the phone going bad, somebody for them gone to prison, they need money, something, they're getting trouble, that kind of stuff. You gotta say,
well, you don't go looking for trouble. You don't go picking up baggage. This is the first thing, no matter how much, sometimes you have you're very philanthropic in yourself, and that's something that people
You
want
want
to
to
do.
help.
You want to give.
Yeah.
And a lot of women, and older women are conned more. So I have to say, when it comes to this statistic, there are actually statistics out there that say that older women, older single women are more vulnerable to these to be targeted by these individuals who go out there and prank, because they're there. A lot of them, work, and they're
Independent. You think the clock
they
running
have
out
a little
too?
money in their pockets, in
Yeah.
the bank
Yeah.
account,
Yeah.
and so they're there
Yeah.
feeling sorry for somebody, boy child.
Yeah. And
that
especially.
has no intention, absolutely no intention of no life with you.
Yeah, especially in a season like this where everything is sky high, and a lot of people looking for ways and means to make a quick buck, right?
This is a very ridiculous way of making an extra dollar. This is a very crazy way of having an
Yeah,
extra stream,
yeah.
extra stream of income coming in.
Mm.
Don't do it. Don't
Correct,
do
correct,
it.
correct, correct, correct. Lots of that. But let's move.
Yes, the last thing on the morning page before we push forward, I want Sherry to go into this bit a little bit, is the magistrate urges foreign victims of human trafficking to come forward, says won't be prosecuted for immigration-related violations. How does
Yeah,
that
yep,
work?
yep, 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 yep. Well, I don't know if how to do that. You can say, well, you've broken the law here, but we are going to prosecute you,
Yeah, how does
right?
that work?
I guess it's a larger protection that is being offered,
Mm-hmm.
because you might be caught up in you might not have been responsible for your own immigration or emigration wherever you are. In our case, you might have to have been responsible for coming here on your own. Somebody brought you. So you are be a breach in a natural sense of with the immigration
Mm-hmm.
protocols and so on. But what they're really looking to do is to buttress this whole trafficking in persons thing. Remember the Americans were here, the FBI telling them they need to prosecute more.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this could be stemming by that. You got to go after the big fishes.
That's a good point. But the only thing, when I read this bit of reporting, the only thing that I that came to my mind
Mm-hmm.
immediately, the fact is, I'm from Bartico, that. So the first thing that comes to my mind is what I know and what I see operating there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, believe it or not, a lot of times you would go, and there's a lot of the human trafficking in our country is something that it is underreported. Let me just start from that point. Human trafficking in Guyana is underreported, severely underreported. You can, and I guess this is why my only thinking why they would say you wouldn't be prosecuted for immigration related violation is because a lot of times people cross our borders to come in. They know that they don't have the relevant documentation and stuff, but they're coming with somebody that says, there's good work for you. We're going to make sure that you are employed properly. And these persons always come from these are persons that are trafficked. They are the most vulnerable. They're coming from very poor backgrounds and so forth. So they are looking for a way out. Somebody promises employment across the border in Guyana. So they are going through a backtrack channel to get there. And when they get here, though, they cannot leave. They're forced into this bit of to be sex workers and all of these things. It is crazy. And I have to say again that it's unreported. And we see it all the time.
And that's one of the reasons why, again,
Mm-hmm.
we saw the FBI going to visit the Attorney General. One of the things high on the agenda was convictions for human trafficking. They said you're seeing a lot of it, but we've seen a lot of convictions for it. And again, there was an actual workshop, and that's where this particular magistrate was making the call for persons who are victims to come forward without fear of prosecution for immigration breaches and so on, which is good in and of itself. Yep. Lots happening on that front. And where it comes to our morning brew, folks, we're picking that up. Picking up what's happening in the region, some of what is happening in the region. Trinidad, there was a lot of confusion by the airport, Piarco Airport. Yep. Immigration officers got some grouses with the government. As any entity that comes under the government purview can do, and they were exercising their right. Yes, they stayed away from work, but it caused a lot of discomfort for a lot of traveling persons.
I can imagine that.
Yeah.
I can imagine that. You imagine you going there and not having staff to attend to you. That is going to be
a busy airport.
Yeah, that would be chaotic, super chaotic.
Yeah. So we're following that, and I think they're in the process of resolving that situation there. And as we know more, you guys are going to know more as well. But it's quite interesting. A lot of people are traveling for summer, visiting and so on. We love being here with you guys. So you have all that happening, compounding the problem there at Piarco International.
Yeah.
Yep. Even over I think it's yesterday, somebody sent me a video It looked like a passenger. It looked like somebody who was in a public washroom. And what that gentleman was doing there, it makes you think twice about using public washroom, because this was a guy who was washing his private parts, front and back, in the washroom sink.
I don't know why.
In the washroom sink.
That
You know,
image is like in my mind.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
So
want to.
it makes you think twice. When you go to the washroom. And I saw a documentary that says that women, one of the reasons why women are susceptible to a lot of illnesses, you all have the tendency of resting your bags on the floor. Like if you go in the washroom, you rest your bag on the ground.
No, I don't.
Or
I don't.
even on the
Period.
washroom sink, for instance, you have a lot of germs. I mean, if you're dealing with folks like that who go in the washroom, do all kinds of stuff with the sink, you see how you're gonna in
How
problems.
is that even
But I
physically
have people.
possible?
So you rest
Sorry.
your back down, and then a quarter back goes on your lap, right? So you're transferring germ to your person and so on. It's interesting.
No, but
Very interesting.
it's like, how is it physically possible
You
for
should
you
see
to
it. You should see it. It's
wash,
disgusting. It's
to wash
disgusting.
yourself
But
like
it
in the
makes you
sink?
think twice, because you're thinking, normal human beings, and you're using the washroom in a particular
That's
way,
for mental health people. That's
right?
mental health issues.
But this looked like a guy who was kind of, it looked like, I don't know, it looked like a passenger who may have been on the airport a little while, so you want to refresh yourself, and he's using the bathroom sink, and using the dispenser and all that, and he's using soap, and somebody who had just left, because you can see the foot of somebody just walked out the door. I know somebody keeping watch or what, like 2 seconds, when he hops kind of on the sink, and is doing all this kind of madness.
That's not local.
But it makes you think twice. I start circulating locally, so who knows?
Hopefully it's
Who
not.
knows?
Hopefully
Who
it's
knows? It
not.
makes
But
you
it's
really
just,
think twice, because when you go into the washroom, you're so absent-minded, even to touch that thing with your hand. And even when you finish washing your hand, you still got to turn back the tap.
I always wash it. I
Right?
always wash it.
So
I have
thankfully-
it instilled in my.
thankfully
I
now-
turn
yeah.
on. I turn it on, and I wash the actual tap.
Thankfully, you have that
And I-
motion thing. You see?
Always,
You
always.
see, tell me I got
always.
some OCDs.
I don't know. I can't help it.
tap wash.
Yes, and I was like, even
You
when
get-
I'm done
You
washing
got a
it,
part-time
I
job
would
right there.
literally
You
like
can
get
wipe down and
water
so
in
on.
my hands and I like wash back.
I can see you. Might as well wipe the floor. This wall of little thing. Might as well get it to the scrub. Next you have a side hustle. You see, just a
And whole
just
side hustle, making sure
a
that
little
it's
side
clean.
hustle. But it just makes you think twice about how you are.
And women usually walk
Yeah.
around with with napkins that are disinfected napkins that
But
you can wipe.
again,
And
it isn't helpful if you can rest your bag on the ground, rest your bag on the counter, because by the time you wash your hand, you pick up the bag now, the germs come with you still.
listen to me, folks.
Yeah.
If you don't know Sherrod, things like this would bother him tremendously.
Yeah. So
It bothers him
I
tremendously.
got another layer of protection. I'm going to wash it. Another layer of protection. One reporting here too, a lot of stuff coming out of Trinidad this morning. This is Dwayne Bravo saying that he's concerned about the crime rate in Trinidad. No way. Crime is concerned. Trinidad and Jamaica and Guyana, we right up there. It's different in those places. It's quite different. And Dwayne Bravo, professional cricketer, is Dwayne retired now? I'm not too certain. But he's complaining now. He said, "This thing, we need to do something. We need to do something about this crime rate."
I'm happy. I'm happy to see. I'm very happy to see these local stars. I have to say, speaking out on these matters, because it's necessary that all voices are weighed in when it comes to these things.
Correct.
We have it is bad. It is bad. We've been following so much, and I have to say we have relatives. Interconnectivity of the region, particularly everybody in Guyana would basically know somebody or have a relative or friend living in one of the Caribbean islands. Trinidad, I have a relative, born and raised in Trinidadians, and when I looked at what has been reported in terms of crime, it's scary to say the least. It's very scary to say the least.
Trinidad is different, but we continue to follow what's happening there, guys, and we're going to let you know. And local news. The Prime Minister met with some African royalty quite recently, and we want to welcome this delegation to Guyana. Of course, they are from South Africa, and they are actual royalty from South Africa. And that's one thing I admire South Africa for. Quite like the British, they in coming to becoming a democracy. they didn't do away with these what do you call it? These royal families there,
Yeah.
right? We weren't just anyhow people, we didn't come for betterment. We had betterment right where we were, right? We came because we were enslaved.
Yeah.
Good. And so there's a system. I think it was a man who think was explaining it to me. Yes, yes, yes. Because she had the privilege of meeting the delegation as well. Who there is one parliament, like a political parliament, and then there is another parliament for the royal families and so on. That they're part of the decision making process because remember this country would have belonged to them in this kind of tribal system with royal families and so on for generations, for centuries. And now you have this mix, quite like the European in terms of the British, with a royal family and a democracy working side by side. Very interesting, very interesting. And they're here as part of the emancipation celebration through, I think, AGDA and a CARICOM entity. Yep. Interesting times.
Well,
Interesting
but
times.
we want to say from the FYI family, welcome to Guyana. And I have to say that I do believe that I wanted to see a whole lot more press coming out of this. I'm trying not to be,
I know what you're thinking. I can see your thoughts.
try not to say
yeah.
I think a whole lot more needs to be said when it comes to this. You have an actual royal family in the country.
Yeah.
You have
African royal family.
Yeah, you have the queen.
I love their modern dress. It's different.
Princesses,
it's different.
And all of that.
Yeah.
And I see, I saw one piece out of DPI. If I missed it, I don't know.
Yeah.
But welcome to Guyana, absolutely.
Enjoy. Do enjoy.
There's a lot, there's a lot. And I think one of the things that I'm happy about is that they're actually here for the emancipation celebration. And that's wonderful. We have gotten to a point that, especially young people, these holidays come up, emancipation, and you see somebody knocking bottle or drinking beer at a corner, some party somewhere, and it actually takes away from the true significance of emancipation altogether. And to have the royal family here right now, it's a
and we don't reflect often enough, and we have to, because when you have people who tell you came for betterment, you realize that you're not really reflecting too often on your history, and we came from somewhere, and we weren't living in poverty. We weren't living in destitute situations. We actually belong to a people who were way ahead of what we call the civilized world in terms of technology and wealth and all of that, right? But when you read your history, and I think former Prime Minister of Trinidad has a real good hold on it. Former Prime Minister, the late Dr. Eric Williams. When you read Capitalism and Slavery, you realize it's always about the money.
That's what it is.
It didn't start as the color of the texture. We see these people in the dark, and we're going to enslave them. And even to use that stereotype to think that South Africa, you're dark, gonna put you in trouble, because when you go to Africa, you can see some people who are Caucasian, but they're Africans. And when you hear them speak, again, the stereotype is broken, because you're thinking they're going to speak a certain way. But when you're hearing a Caucasian-looking person speaking South African, one of the dialects there, you are struck. But the larger point is how much more open we have to be. We can disagree on politics, but I don't have to hate you because you're indigenous, or think somehow that you're inferior, or because you're Indian that you're inferior. We can disagree with the politics, the policies, and those kinds of things, right? But culturally, I love who you are. I love where you came from. And I think sometimes we kind of mix this thing up. But which of us in this country really truly can they claim that we're any pure anything? All of us mix up. It's one cook-up show.
You made a good point, and I don't want to lose that point, and I want to add my bit on it. The fact that that a lot of us said about when it comes to history and how the people came to Guyana and all of that, and we have to acknowledge the history altogether and the way in which it is told in places like South Africa and so forth. And I have to say that the history, the records, the historic records of the earth would show that persons that royal families were enslaved. royal families
Yeah.
were enslaved.
Yeah.
Kings and queens, princesses
Yeah.
shipped as
That's the
slaves,
reality of it.
right?
That's the reality of it.
Shipped as slaves, and their descendants now what was raised in other countries like our own, like Guyana.
Yeah.
People that actually came from
Yeah.
royalty.
Yeah. And you know, we still have echoes of that.
Yeah.
We still have echoes of it, because when you look far back, do you imagine at one point we were the number one sugar producing colony? At one point we were the number one
Yeah.
cotton producing colony in the world, right? But if you read Williams and the other folks, you would see as sugar began to wane with its influence, it no longer became economical,
Yeah.
right? And when you look back at some of it, you read some of these people in history and so on, you would realize, you know, Eric Williams, Dr. Eric Williams is one of those seminal persons on slavery and Caribbean history and so on. You would see that even for some of the emancipation, some part of the liberation of the African people too wasn't necessarily out of the goodness of the heart of people necessarily. Yes, it was largely in part of the advocacy and the strong fight that was put there, but sugar was less and less becoming economically viable.
Yeah.
Right, and so as the Africans who would have been enslaved for quite over 2 centuries would have moved off from the plantations, right? You had the East Indians who came as indentured, stayed on, and so on and so on. And that's why you see now, even in Guyana, the East Indians still dominate in terms of sugar cultivation and that kind of stuff. But it's interesting to see that's all part of our history.
Yeah.
And our history in terms of slavery and all of that. So that when we are here fighting and you know, some people getting more than some, and the Americans now got to come and talk about what do you call it? But they said shared growth or something like that. You know, shared prosperity. The thing belong to all of us and so on. It is mind-boggling that where we came from as a people, we can't see that for ourselves. We can't, because we fought to be liberated. We fought to be independent.
Inclusive democracy.
Inclusive democracy.
Yes.
Right? Inclusive growth. Right? Greater transparency. Where we came from as a people, it is interesting that we would get here and think, oh, you're better than me. I better. But we were all fighting one common enemy. And the minute we get there, oh Lord, it's all hell break loose. We start fighting each other now.
Yeah.
It's a fighting people, you know.
It's very
right?
short.
So that's what we're going into. And so I can appreciate, that's why it is light for me to appreciate people like Mr. Gormadan, right? He might have a different agenda, but I don't see him anything less than a human being, right? The policies of the party he advocates for, I might disagree with, right? But they're all human beings, and they have a right to push those policies forward. We have a right to reject them as well, and we disagree on that. But when you come into think that because of my blackness, right, I have a what do you call it? Divine right of kings, as some philosophers said, to rule, and you don't. If because I'm black or because I'm Indian, right? I'm somehow endowed with better qualities to lead. That is where the madness starts. That is where the madness starts. And we fail to realize that once we step outside of this region, you know, that has remained largely peaceful for a long time. You know, all of us in one basket. And again, the case in point is the guy vying for prime minister in Great Britain, Mr. Sunak. Yeah. Because born he was
educated
and raised. Right? He is a British citizen through and through, born there. And now that he want to go up to the apex, he said,
you look a little different, you know.
You just wake up and realize he brown.
He looks a little different.
Right? You just wake up and realize that he brown, you know.
I didn't realize he's not white. And
that's the trouble.
And the thing is, you say brown because you are here, you're Guyanese.
And you know,
but just to realize that he's not white.
Jurita said it. Jurita said it. And I think I saw somebody pointing it out, Norman Brown or somebody. Look what they're doing to Mark Phillips. Two of them overseas, they couldn't even swear in Mark Phillips. Did you see that Mark Phillips was swearing in the acting president?
I didn't see that.
Yeah. Oh, all right. But the larger note, right? PPP love Mark Phillips until he decides to run. Till he decide what is barring me.
Yeah. Yeah. Why am I not good enough?
Why am I not good enough to be president of this country? Then you can see how much they love him. Right? Right. We love Kwame till he decides he wants to step up a little forward. You know, he's the bulldog. Right? Until he decides he wants to be a little bigger than himself in the party. Then you can see problem. And that is the trouble that we have. Right? That's the trouble that we have in this country. That's the trouble that we have. So we're following that, folks. But the big issue this morning, the big issue we're talking about is local governance. Several issues happening here. And I heard you mentioning some of it earlier on.
Yes.
Right?
Well, local
Several issues happening.
It's big altogether.
We have problems.
But the biggest issue is that we haven't seen or heard of any local government election.
Yeah.
That's the biggest.
Correct.
That's
Correct. And we are products of the local government system. I think we did too bad. You know, we came through local government, you in Barton, the municipality, myself in Georgetown. We came through that system, and it's a good system for fielding leaders, young leaders, and it's a good system to remedy some issues at the local level as well. But we've been failing. The people never like local government elections. You look back 23 years minus it, they never like local government elections.
Yeah. But you get an opportunity to do so much for the community when it comes to grassroots leadership. That's what it entails. Grassroots leadership. The people on the ground know who are the person, know the people that are there and that is capable of representing them. And the whole structure of the local government system is one that should empower persons to elect people based on their credentials. If I can say it like that.
So, Judy, let's start here. You know, a big fuss was made. Arresting people, humiliating them for what they consider to be electoral issues of fraud and all of that, electoral fraud and so on. Right? Humiliated a lot of people over that. Now we're pushing on 2 years. We had one conviction yet. And now the cases have been adjourned to October 6th, as you can see there, folks. And there's a move now by the prosecutors. They want one magistrate to look at all the issues.
One magistrate.
To look at all the cases, yes. That's why they've adjourned it, because they've petitioned the court that one magistrate should hear all of the cases. Right? Now, these guys were so sure. They get to close the evidence and all this, you know. And it's amazing that they go out there and talk about how they have, I heard Irfan recently, rescued democracy and attempted rigging and all that, but you got one case yet of a conviction of all that.
2 years in.
2 years in, right? And it's their court system, you know, their own court system. And the same people fighting the two petitions in the court, of which the CCJ told us recently, we are very concerned with the length of time these petitions are taking. You're going to knock out a case. The man made a brilliant point.
We cannot.
Right? You're going to knock out a case because it got served
technicalities
a day late.
Minor technicalities.
But 2 years, this petition in the system, and you don't see it as a problem. Right? But when you say that, you know, that's happening with AFC, yard riggers, and so on. Right? But why these cases taking so long? And that never concerned the AG. That never concerned the FNL. That never concerned Jack Dio. Right? Technicality, something, all of us knew that. We felt that instinctively. To this date, the substance of both petitions have not been tried and challenged. Challenged and tried. It's a whole set of technical stuff. Who gets served late? Who's a respondent? Who is not a respondent? Right? And Justice With made that point brilliantly. I think he asked the AG, how many cases, elections, petitions have been won? Well, have been decided on the merits. On the merits. He said one. One. The number of them that have been brought. 15 years and you can't hear an election petition. Right? Are you comfortable in a system like that? Something is wrong with that, man. Instinctively.
But the problem is then the same persons there go and beat their chest and say, "Oh, we represent democracy."
Yes.
And that is a fundamental problem.
Yeah.
It means that you lack the comprehension of what democracy is. Right. And then we have to call it out. We have to call out the fact that we have representatives, you know, every single time these people leave our shore and they go, they speak about democracy every single time. But the test of democracy, they have failed each and every last one.
I know what? Let me show you how the system is different for us. Again, it's what the Americans were talking about. Inclusive growth, transparency, people being treated fairly, all equal before the law. And it's quite interesting to hear Irfan Ali's comment after he finished talking with Kamala. He said in his words, we confronted the big issues, right? Now, I never know for the PPP that shared, we call it shared resources, and you say parity and equity and so on were big issues for them, right? Because I see people complaining all the time about who get cash grant and who won't get and who didn't get and which communities didn't get. You know, some communities you go to and you got to, it's only left to ask for a blood sample and a stool sample to get it. And some other communities, no questions asked, no reasons given, right? That has to be an affront to who we are as Guyanese. Where's the equity? And now he's saying that when Kamala raises these issues, oh, these are the big issues. Y'all are wicked. It's wickedness. But the point I wanted to make before your interjection is the fact that here are employees of GCOM being embarrassed and humiliated that they would somehow try to cheat the system on election day and the days, election fraud. That's the charge. And 2 years later, they're still in the court system, right? Claudette Singh had private criminal charges brought against her. The DPP dropped those charges and didn't even have the decency to tell this nationwide. Right? There is an unequal justice system in this country, right? And it's wickedness. You can't even describe it as justice.
I think you say it best. You always say, you use the term justice. Justice isn't blind. In Guyana. Justice isn't blind.
Irfan Ali had his 19 fraud charges dropped.
You have to look a certain way for justice.
Had his 19 fraud charges dropped. You know what is on the front? Roxanne George Wiltshire, the Chief Justice, looked at a case concerning Brassington and Ashley Singh and said there are merits to be tried here in the High Court. The DPP dropped those charges and didn't even have the decency, you understand me, to let us know why. But look at the difference. The quality of people of good legal standing. Justice Rishi, is Rishi's his name? Not Rishi. Young fellow who just became a justice of the appeal. Nevertheless, he's hearing the matter concerning the police service commission, right? And he said, because I and them were trying to make the case that the service commission's life has come to an end, so what are we still going on with? He said, no. He said, there are issues here that are grave and we have to have a determination on, you know, could the president do X, Y, or Z, right? If we drop the case now, then we never have a determination on that. And so we leave it to somebody else with go down the line. The president do the same thing, to bring the same case to try the same issue again. And it's in the public interest that we know whether the president overstepped his boundaries or not. It has nothing to do whether the life of the commission has ended or not. Right? Looking at that issue with fraud and actually saying that the Chief Justice said there were issues here. And you can have a justice system that says, we're not going to pursue that anymore, unilaterally. Right? On whose behalf? The people's behalf? I didn't agree with the DPP that she should drop those charges. On whose behalf? Is she dispensing justice? Interestingly, and then when you see the connection, interestingly enough, 19 fraud charge dropped for Irfan Ali. The DPP's husband is a high official in the CIOG, right? And of course, we got some decent Muslims in our country. And I have no doubt the organization itself, right, is a decent organization. But if you just connect the dots, and I have seen almost on 2 occasions, the DPP's husband in that organization publishing, saying that they love the work Irfan Ali is doing, his government. Right? I've never seen that before from that organization. Right? But his wife dropped 19 fraud charges from Irfan. Right? And you look at the justice system and you wonder, you see this small man, oh my God. And you know who's emblematic? That indigenous brother the other day who spent 9 years. Right? Because he had no representation. That's a small man. Right? That's a small man.
The most vulnerable.
Never indicted for murder. But he spent 9 years. And people who the High Court says there are issues to be tried here, they get their charges dropped. No questions asked, no reason given. And we say that is justice. in this country. I feel something is wrong with that. And you don't have to go to law school to be able to determine that. When you hear it irks you. Right? Like the woman who was fired after 16 years at Guyana. Spoke with her last night. Minister goes in there. Well, it is alleged because from the information we have, the supervisor told her the minister was in the vehicle. Prado pulls up into the gas station. The man hands her the gas slip. And she says to him, based on what she could discern in the gas slip, this is not to be tendered at Regent Street. It is to be tendered at Kitty. Right? There was some other information on the other thing. She said she could not read it. Right? She couldn't see it clearly. And she said, the driver pulled out his phone, called somebody, and she said, sir, we don't have a policy where you call people and, we talk in the cell. I can't take your cell phone.
Yeah.
Right? He was upset, whatever the case may be, and he left. A day or two later, she went to work. There's somebody else in her position, and she has a dismissal letter. And her supervisor, well, not a supervisor, what do you call it? The personnel manager, the human resource manager told her the minister was in the vehicle, and you have to treat government people differently.
Oh.
Right? So if that was a fake gas slip, and she had spent 900 gallons of gasoline, you understand me? You were here, you should have followed procedure. It should not have been tendered here. Why you give it out? And that woman spent 16 years working with that organization, starting from a pump attendant with an unblemished record, never steal a cent. Right? And you got a set of shady, colorful characters in there that bring on should have no part of that organization. 16 years from a pump attendant, working her way through the ranks to where she got dismissed from. Right? All because of Faithful Night. A Prado pull in. And as I said last night, she didn't run out and put on a mal upon them. And I want to hear go than them on those issues. Right? 16 years. And she didn't bow down, just trying to do her job. Sir, this receipt here should go at the thing. What impression she would have had? Imagine if the minister, if he was in the vehicle from infrastructure, what's the name of it now? Public Works, had walked down that window. If he was, I can't see a driver handing a woman a phone or attempting to talk to the minister in the back seat. If the minister was in the vehicle, to wind down the window and say, ma'am, I'm minister. Let's say it's Minister Indar. Right? I'm Minister Indar. This is my driver. We know we should really be at Gayo Kitty, but we're a little jam. Could you help us, or could I talk to the supervisor? The greatest among us must be the servants. The greatest. Right? We should be bowing down to the people who elect us and put us there. 16 years that woman worked for Gayo. Right? And the day after that, unblemished record. And even that, I don't see what's the infraction. She is erring on the side of caution. I can't discern what you have here, but what I can see is that this is supposed to be at Kitty. And I can't take your cell phone to talk to anybody. Right? And they can send that woman home. It boils my blood just thinking about it.
I think
and they come and say, we care.
There's a couple. There's a couple of things.
Sorry,
there's a couple of things, and then the first one is that there is legal recourse for her particularly. But I want to make this point, especially when it comes to accountability, but when it comes to disbursement of fuel. When the coalition government got into office, it was none other than the Ministry of Education that there was a case, and under the APNU AFC administration, persons were sent before the court. Investigations were done because of the fuel scandal. Right? When the research was done, it goes back to the audit reports from way before 2015 about the nonsense, not having documentations and so to account for this. And persons were put before the court and charged under the coalition administration for that. So it is, the woman knows that she can't just haphazardly go and just give in fuel out, because it's a crime. That is a crime. But to say, to give the impression that, if somebody pull up and they're even if they're a minister in government, you're supposed to break laws to accommodate them.
The minister
is that what
should insist that the law is followed.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to be exempt from the law.
Exactly.
That is what should happen.
Exactly.
Right? Or if I don't see that as a difficult issue, we're in the, ma'am, I know I'm in the wrong gas station. We're in the wrong gas station. We should tell it. But I mean, guy oil is guy oil. Right? I'm just asking, can I talk to the supervisor to exercise a discretion to give us the gas because we might be late for something? I could see that happening, and a supervisor or a manager flexing and saying, it's a minister after all, and it's a guy oil gas station. Let's give them the gas. Right? She come up, she reports to work the next day, and there's a dismissal letter waiting for her.
I think you should sue them.
Oh, God have mercy.
Where's the labor? Where's the representation coming from the Ministry of Labor?
We were told that the union was approached, and the union said they're trying to reach out to the minister, but the minister isn't taking the call.
The minister isn't taking the call from the union?
Yes, the minister isn't taking the call and what have you. But again, you saying, you should make this a court matter.
But that's not. But it's even. Sharon, no.
To go to
but why is the union reaching out to the minister? Well, what the minister got to do with that? Why is the union reaching out to the minister? That doesn't make any sense.
I think we should just do the right thing and reinstate that woman.
The union has to have to deal directly with her employers there at Guy Oil.
Yeah.
What the minister got to do with that? The minister wasn't employing her.
I guess to verify or what have you.
No.
Well, that's what they're saying. They're reaching the thing. I think they should do the right thing and reinstate that woman. She did nothing wrong but her job, right? And on a fateful night, a Prado pull in, and she on duty. That's the only crime, going to work that night. Right? 16 years, and you could hand somebody a dismissal letter like that because they try to conform. Right? I understand sometimes why people say a lot of things about us. Because we're different as a coalition government.
Yeah, very much so.
We're too different, maybe. Right? And you know what? That same personnel officer, human resource officer, I have had calls with people begging me to take it easy on him because, this and that and so on. But it's wickedness. I refuse to follow rules that are unjust, right? And that will bring hardship to people. And some of y'all got to make a decision. But once you have both floating, y'all don't care with nobody else. And I will continue because it's not the first time I have gotten countless, and I've said this publicly before, countless complaints about the human resource manager at Guy Oil. And it always seems it's one particular set of people is at the brunt of his wrath and the receiving it. It's always one set of people. Right? So I can understand why the Americans are saying we want shared growth or whatever you call it, right? It's a lot of wickedness, It's unfathomable, right? So when you have to, and the stress was that you got to treat government people differently. How? The rules are the rules. How much rules you got? Anybody could come and say, "I is a government minister driver. I ain't got to slip full the tank." And you got to take a chance because you don't want to end up on the bread line. Yeah,
and I have to say, nobody could do that. Nobody could do that because you will face a court and you could be jailed. You can face a court and be jailed for doing something like that. And that is my issue. This thing has nothing to do with her being dismissed. I refuse for anybody, any union representative, to say that, they're not making contact with minister. That's utter crap. It's utter crap for you to even attempt to say something like that.
Money every month, right? For 16 years.
You can't do that.
For 16 years.
You have to deal with her employer or her former employer. Yeah. She was dismissed. You have to deal with them and the matter at hand. They have to state that the reasoning for that. You can't just dismiss somebody.
I wonder how many times that is replicated in the system, I wonder how many times.
But it makes me, listen, it makes me, and I'm coming from a position of a sitting member of the Public Accounts Committee now. It makes me wonder the amount of skullduggery going on at the gas station with fuel slips. That's what I'm wondering right now. Because if you're being dismissed for not doing something that you deem not to be going through the straight and narrow, then it begs the question for me, how much skullduggery, how much theft is actually happening.
But what do you think the next person is going to do? What do you think the next person, knowing this situation, the next man on that job, what he can do? Anybody that come, he giving gas free. You think he want You hear it was a minister driver or a cousin or a
No, and
niece to a
and I
minister.
will give a caution to that person. Don't do it because you can go to jail.
Mm.
Don't do it because you can go to jail. Because when the financial accountability, those acts come down and hammer it on you, what you should and should not be doing, nobody's going to say, oh, well, this person was scared because they didn't want to lose their job. That is not a legal bypass for you to go,
Yeah.
oh, I was afraid, so I didn't
But
want to
that
lose
lady
my
was in a
job.
lose-lose situation because let's argue. She had taken the chance. The fuel still supposed to be tendered elsewhere. Another guy, and she said, well, I'll give you all the thing. She only see the driver. I mean, a lot of people own Prados, right? One of us a fake slip. And she ended up giving up a whole 20,000 in gas. I figure might full of Prado diesel, or might 30 based on the price of gas, right? And then you realize, you know what, this thing ain't got the right stamp, it ain't got the right this, ain't got the right that, and you should not have done it, right? And then they're just looking for a reason to censure them. They say, well, you should not have done. You went against policy and go home.
She did the right thing.
There was
she did the right thing. But if you're not sure, you're not sure.
Yeah.
It's
the rules of driving.
No,
when in doubt, pull back.
But I don't know how else to say this, but she should not give a damn about whether or not the minister's there. The windows could be wind down and you can see it's a minister. How does that change your course of action and the procedures that you have to follow?
Think about this. We just talked about the election fraud cases in the court for 2 years. Could you imagine she bringing a court action? What you really want is you work. When you're going back to work, you gotta feed your family. You gotta pay the lawyer. You gotta pay. You gotta say, well, 2 years in a long haul, maybe 4 or 5.
That is when well, listen. This is at these times, and I say this just like that. With the same urgency in that less than 24 hours in which you could put cash in envelopes to people, the same urgency and the same lapse in the system, the same loopholes that you found to go through the financial system to do that is the same way in which you can just pick up the phone and make a call and say, this was wrong. Based on the evidence out there in the public, this was wrong.
We don't have the public servants. We don't have the public servants at the and that woman is a public servant working for a state entity at the highest point of the pyramid, right? Because I see Starbucks News poking fun of us this morning and saying that government and opposition MP clash debate for 6 hours on giving public servants the first salary the first month, right? Basically saying, I think, by the headline, is that it should be a no-brainer. But the fact you got to debate for 6 hours, when you should pay public servants,
and still not pay them at the end of the first month.
Tells where we are. That tells where we are. And the emphasis is not to make public servants comfortable, really and truly, but to give them sleepless nights.
Yeah. Well,
it's a kind of wickedness. But as we wrap up, one of the other issues we're looking at, and Jury did segue into this early on, is that the overdue local government elections. The chairman of GCOM, Clarence Singh, had promised when the CEO, the chief elections officer, is hired and appointed, they will be in a better spot to give a date. But that still remains outstanding, and that's one of the issues that is being raised this morning. And in addition to that, one of the other things that we're following quite interestingly, we discussed it here in this program, Twitter. I know you thought this problem had gone away. Is what is happening at the Bedford Acting Triumph NDC with the sale of lands that part of which belongs to people being sold to a private entity, and this is in the form of John Finance Limited. John Finance had come out initially and said that since the land was in contention, those lands. Well, now they have come. It has been pointed out that they have not gone forward. As a matter of fact, part of the narrative is that they were invited to a meeting at the NDC to discuss how they would be refunded their monies. And then another entity turned up saying that John Finance had transferred their interest and rights in the property. Even after John Finance went and said that they were no longer interested, they transferred their rights and ownership to them. Right? And so it's a whole convoluted story now, and that's in the media. So to the whole editorial this morning, I saw a councillor also wrote a very damning letter in Samak News and some other daily newspapers on the very issue. But the fact of the matter is, why would a council, knowing that this land belongs to a part of the land, a huge part of it belongs to private people, right? Citizens, would they be eager to sell it, right? And they seem to be doing everything to cheat the system and joke the books, because Sabbath News, as well as as members of the council, because clearly the members of the council got ulterior motives.
Yeah, at these points in time, sometimes I just want to just pull up the actual names of the counselors and just shoot it to you.
You know where
you're gonna get an understanding.
You know where the
it's public records.
You know where this private this entity that is now say they're taking over from John Finance the rights and so on of the land, where they said they are located. Sabbath News said they visit. And there's an old dilapidated house there. There's no bridge. There's no fence. It's overgrown.
It's a lie.
It's a lie. But at least the business don't operate there. Right? You know, it's incredible. And you know what? It's shocking. When you read it, all of us know what's happening there.
Yeah. That's a sad part.
All of us know what's happening there. Right?
Right now we could call it out as a different story, but we all know. Exactly. We all know.
I know what is also very worrying to me. A lot of stories I'm seeing emanating from the leadership of that NDC, right? As it concerns properties in that area that may have been left abandoned and so on. You might see the properties in some of the names of the
working as a real estate
agent, councillors and so on. A lot of foolishness happening at the Better for Acting Triumph NDC, and that seriously needs. Well, I can't even say it needs the attention of the local government commission, because you got a set of crooks operating it too. So I don't know if we can be any better off.
Well, that's true.
But again, part of what Sabbath News is pointing out this morning, and this is another segment we deal with, what they said in its editorial. This is what how Sabbath News ends the editorial. Autocratic behavior, Sabbath News says, is no more palatable at the local level than it is at the national one. In small communities, there is a unique opportunity for consultation and compromise without the retreat into fixed group categories. Local executives may have energy and be convinced they know how to develop their area, but unless they have the community on board, they will fail. And for its part, the community needs to take an active interest in what the local representatives are doing, so they are held accountable in matters like land sales.
Oh, wow.
Right? Autocratic behavior is no more palatable at the local level than it is as the national one. And all intents and purposes, the NDC and its leadership know they have no right to sell that land, because it's not theirs to sell. But they are finding all kinds of mechanisms, right, to quietly, what is the word, to sell the land, divest the land, you know, right before our eyes.
We have, and the whole purpose of a local government, and this is where it comes in, you know. The whole purpose of a local government election is for people to go in there and elect people that they know will best represent the area, the local authority area. And too many times, you know, persons go in there and they just look for a political symbol. You see a cup, you know, so you put your X because your mother and your father said, and your grandmother said that they always put the X next to the cup. So whichever candidate's name it comes alongside that cup, you go on with that per se, you know. And that's the issue that you get, because if you go down that route, you yourself will be diluting the whole purpose of local governance and then actually having a system that's going to work for your best interest. We have to make sure that these are, you know, the BV Triumph, there's a BV Triumph NDC area there on the East Coast. And for persons that don't know, because the system as is, you know, the local government system as it gives the people in the BV Triumph NDC the power to actually go in there and elect and make representation for those folks.
But in addition to that, what is worrisome to me, the same news we read, the local government minister got to read. The same news we read, the local government commission got to read.
You know, I seldom
Why aren't
speak.
they stepping in?
I seldom
And this is not the
speak.
first, this is months now. This issue
I
is in the press.
seldom speak about the local
Oh
government
wow!
minister because I think that
All complicit.
I think that he is going to. I think he is an element that is going to be of great detriment to the PvP, and let him go. Leave him with that amount of rope. Let him continue. He does the most ridiculous of things. You cannot, as a minister, as any minister, be involved in wide levels of how must I put it, Cheryl? You go against your own
Yeah.
system, basically.
Yeah.
And you cannot, when you do that, you simply cannot call anybody in and pull them in for fitness and say what you're doing is wrong, right? Because a lot of the cases are, and let me tell you, there's a lot of the times we must not be ignorant and don't put aside that these persons work on instructions as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And that's how it
Yeah.
goes, you know. So why is he not pulling them up? You know, this is something that he knows about, you know, these questions, because he needs to come clean on
Yeah.
that. But like I said, I personally speak about him very seldom because I believe that he is setting up himself
He's
to be
part of the problem.
one of the failures of the PP administration, and I leave him, let him be.
Judy, I want you to address this because you do it so eloquently. Leon Robertson then says we're not addressing how much money US gave the PPC government. Leon, don't really find it. Leon, don't really find
You're
it.
not talking about how much money
It's the Exim Bank issue.
give
Yeah.
the PVP government. I'm hoping that Leon is not talking about the Exim
Yes,
Bank.
is that he's talking about?
I'm hoping that
The
he's
2 billion
not
US.
speaking about that, because it will show that why Leon comes on and say
Yeah.
all of those things, because
Clearly, he
he's
isn't doing any
clearly,
additional reading and so on.
no,
Research
he will
and
be
so on.
clearly ignorant to the clearly ignorant to anything. And Leon, to your question, I mean, I have to answer it. No money, none, zero. Like, how else do I say this? Zip. You don't understand.
Zilch.
You didn't comprehend the MOU. I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
Nah,
but
nah.
I would advise that when you come and you try to speak on this matter, you actually have a little bit of iota of understanding as to the
Yeah.
issue at hand,
Yeah.
and you would understand what it actually will bring,
Yeah.
and the level of conditionalities,
Yeah.
the fact that you're opening channels to access loans. You know what's a loan, Leon? Does Leon know what a loan is? You know, because when you actually understand the conditionalities of the MOU that was signed when it comes to the 2 billion US, and the fact that it is opening pathways and platforms for specific areas, specific agencies, ministries, or for say sectors of the society, and availability of loans to be given, you will not make those idle comments. But we can only do so much in
we had a teacher at some point
people.
used to walk in class and said, I'm responsible for dictation, you're responsible for comprehension. So
You know, right?
comprehension.
Yes.
It's difficult. It's times we live in.
How
We hope
does-
Leon gets the help.
But I think Leon was here yesterday. I spoke about this yesterday.
Yeah.
So it simply means that he is like not comprehending.
Yeah. Anna Quenlin wrote a book. The title of it is How Reading Changed My Life.
Yeah.
Right? That's it for us here. That's our time this morning.
Leon probably didn't went far in school.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We'll do our best to break it down.
Yeah.
And to make sure the persons understand. But a very, very, important conversation to be had when it comes to what exactly is that. And I said yesterday, a lot of persons are carrying away, fetching away with the idea that the US gave money to the administration. And I said it in no uncertain terms that that's not the case.
The terms were certain in which she said it. It was plain English according to
It was
CCG.
plain English.
Simple
I don't
English.
know how else I can break it down. It was
Right?
plain English.
The terms were certain.
How do you believe that? Like, how do you even imagine that to be a fact? How, even if you were thinking that's what, how
Robert
does
said English is a funny language. Right? Kurt Heidekin said somebody give Leon a hug. Right? I want Jack to give you a hug. Let Jack hug you. It's strangest.
How do you do that?
Jack says he left Guyana without COVID. He got COVID.
But I don't have it now.
And then you do have it. If there's not the strongest OB I ever see, right? That is not the strongest OB I ever see. Big announcement, Jagu has COVID. But I'm ready to get it.
Magnus is reading the comprehension is fundamental. It is, but I think we we try to bring the information. It's absolutely necessary that people understand what is going on and the dynamics to which these things are happening. It's absolutely necessary that you get it. You
Yeah.
never go out there and you speak on matters that you have no
Yeah.
understanding. And your push and your
Yeah.
push towards getting people on board with your narrative cannot be to say, ask
Yeah.
somebody like, why are we not talking about the money that the U.S.
Young I
government gave?
start by sounding out words,
When there's
sound
when
out.
there's
That's why you
there's
start
no
reading,
such
sound out.
thing. There's no such
Right?
thing.
Young remind me of again, we were talking about this yesterday morning. Somebody on social media trying to be facetious with coalition people.
Oh,
And
I think yes.
and when we
Click the
yeah,
click.
at the bottom of the article dealt with the 8 MPs being suspended, the person says this is the Duns click, CLICK click. The Duns click. It wasn't Leon. The Duns click, CLICK. But some I just smiled, Overcoming the argument is so easy, But being all the time for
You know, the degree in economics and the master's in public
Yeah.
administration.
The Duns
It
click.
does help. It does help. Yeah.
Duns click. Yeah, click. Duns click. Click that.
Yeah,
Intelligence now.
Leon has no money. Sorry.
Or
Sorry
lack
to
thereof.
burst your bubble. I was hoping that you heard the conversation yesterday,
Yeah.
but there's no money
Yeah.
there for you. So I don't know.
But we love when they're here. We love Leon. We love all the what's your other young lady's name? Savitri. Not Savitri.
I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Leon have no comeback.
That's our time, folks. That's our time. That's our program. Right? We're gonna see you guys on Tuesday because Monday's a holiday. Right?
Yes,
FYI.
oh my goodness.
Monday's emancipation. Happy emancipation.
Yes, oh my goodness. Like Monday's a holiday. Happy emancipation.
Naomi says Leon trying to be cute. in her Amanza voice. She's trying to be cute. Lacho. See people watching Lacho.
Oh shoot.
Lacho.
I don't know.
We miss Lacho. If you all see Lacho, please tell her we asked for her.
Yes, please do.
Right? Please tell her we asked for her.
I think she needs to tell Leon about this money.
Mm-hmm. And Spectator and so on.
Lacho was on yesterday. I'm sure she heard the conversation.
You see Lacho in every program. Lacho was retired this morning. He's Friday the whole week. Everything. Earning the salary. Earning the salary. On every day. Must have got a day off today. We're good to have you folks.
Yes.
We're going to see you guys back on Tuesday morning because Monday's a holiday here. We're going to take the time and rest. Richard and rest whole day, get tribute to rest.
I wish I could. I have a packed weekend.
Packed weekend.
As soon as I get off of this, it's just...
Now, Mr. Lacho busy bleaching. The whole story started here now.
I don't know
Somebody said, where's Berkey? Who's Berkey?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But guys, thank you so much for joining the conversation. There's so much that we discuss on a daily basis, and we continue to say to share. Make sure that you do your part. Share the stream so that other persons will benefit from the conversation as well. So I hope.
And remember that rally comes up on Tuesday.
Yes.
Parade ground, Burnham Court Tuesday.
Yes. Yes, both Sharon and I will be speaking there.
Yeah.
Yes,
Believe
sure
it or
that
not.
you come out. Make sure that you come out and give your support.
Boots on the ground, literally.
Fantastic lineup of speakers.
Yeah,
Amanda will be there too.
Ground. Yeah.
Are we being a little biased?
Talking about being cute. Leader of the opposition will be speaking as well.
Well, of course.
And some other folks too. Looking forward to seeing you guys.
And make sure you have a safe weekend, folks that are out there, if you partake in any emancipation.
Why Paul asking about Bork? Bork is a happily married man. Folks, that's our time. See you guys on Tuesday. Happy emancipation, but we can see you guys in the podcast. Back at 12 and then back on the ring at 8. But this is our final FYI for the week.
Yes.
And we can be back on Tuesday because Monday's a holiday. Stay safe, guys.
Have a good day, guys.